You were never supposed to survive their opinions. You entered rooms where the air changed before you even spoke, where eyes didn't look, they sliced. Every glance was a blade, every smirk a silent execution. They didn't fear you, and that was your first punishment. You were harmless in their mind, insignificant, a background shadow, a name nobody paused for, a breath nobody noticed. You walked into rooms where eyes sharpened like knives, and they carved you into the shape of the nobody they wanted you to be. You were the extra scene, the disposable chapter, a footnote in a story they believed they earned. They didn't fear you then. They pitied you, mocked you, fake smiles, side whispers, that look people give when they believe they're watching a failure bloom. Their laughter hit your spine like stones thrown from safe balconies. Silence wasn't peace back then. It was suffocation. Not the silence of power, but silence like a hand pressing over your mouth, teaching you what it means to drown while still breathing. You felt every whisper like a rope tightening around your throat. Every rumor was another knot, every doubt another suffocating thread. You swallowed humiliation like it was oxygen, and every breath hurt. They laughed like gods. You bled like a sinner. They played judge, jury, and executioner, and your crime was daring to exist without permission. You don't belong here. That sentence did not come once. It echoed. It clung to walls, followed you through hallways, crawled into your sleep like a nightmare that refused morning. That sentence followed you like a curse, a whisper at your back, a chain around your ribs, a spider crawling across your confidence with poisoned legs. Shadows swallowed the light around you. You stayed quiet, thinking quiet was survival, thinking low profile meant safety. You shrank so they could feel tall. You held your breath so they could speak without interruption. You kneeled on stone-cold floors, knuckles cracked from holding in rage, dreams bruised like ribs after unspoken wars. You learned the taste of humiliation so deeply that it burned your tongue even when you drank water. You stared at ceilings at 3 a.m., eyes wide while the world slept, asking the ceiling why it hurt to exist. Storms outside, storms inside. No one knew which lightning scarred deeper. Faces around you were painted masks in a corrupt circus, grinning, hollow, dripping superiority like perfume. They clapped when you stumbled. They smirked when doubt crept into your bones. They felt strong watching you fall because they had never risen. There's a cruelty in being ignored. Not attacked, ignored. Invisible wounds bleed the longest. Invisible battles break the hardest. You tried to talk once, but their laughter slammed the door. Not physically, emotionally, psychologically. That's worse. Doors in the world reopen. Doors in the mind, some never do. You learned then. Your voice wasn't welcome. Your presence wasn't welcomed. Your dreams weren't welcomed. You carried silence like a coffin. You carried doubt like iron on your wrists. You carried loneliness like a ghost that never blinked, and all they saw was weakness. They fed on it. Predators in clean clothes, smiles polished like knives, applause reserved for your collapses. But inside you, a storm whispered, not loud, not yet, just an ember in the ashes saying, endure. You were underestimated not because you were nothing, but because you were not yet revealed. Silent does not mean fragile. Ignored does not mean irrelevant. Doubted does not mean defeated. You breathed dust. You swallowed pain. You let humiliation rewrite your nerves into steel threads. You learned to study everything. The tone in voices. The tremor behind fake confidence. The way power treats the powerless. You learned the truth. People don't hate weakness. They hate the possibility that weakness might rise. So they tried to bury you. They buried you in their breath, in their noise, in their poison. Their opinions piled like dirt over your lungs, and every inhale felt like betrayal against your own survival. Dignity became a luxury. Self-respect became a battlefield, and breathing felt like defiance. Do you know what happens when the world corners someone too long? They don't break, they sharpen, they mutate. They evolve into something the world isn't ready to see. You did not crumble. You calcified. Pain hardened into armor. Silence twisted into strategy. Insults became fuel cells in your spine. Every night you stayed alive was a rebellion. Every morning you woke up was a declaration of war the world didn't hear. Yet, they thought the silence made you small. They never realized silence was welding you into a weapon. They had oxygen, and you had silence, and still, you didn't die. Then came the night you stopped choking and started changing. There's always a breaking point, a night where breathing feels like punishment, not life. A moment where silence stops being safety and becomes a coffin. No applause, no rescue, no miracle, just breath burning in your lungs like gasoline. Heat where weakness used to live. Pressure becoming hunger instead of pity. You didn't break, you boiled. You simmered under your skin like lava, waiting for a crack in the earth. The world thought you were quiet because you were scared. But fear is just fuel when you're tired of praying. Fury didn't break you, it sharpened you, turned hesitation into blade edge, turned trembling hands into executioners, turned shame into strategy. Pain didn't paralyze you, it forged you. Iron in the lungs, steel in the spine. You didn't pray for a different world. Praying is for the dying, not the destined. You sharpened teeth for the one that existed. You decided you'd rather bite than bleed. You'd rather hunt than hide. You'd rather choke the world back than let it suffocate you again. People think villains wake up angry. They don't. Villains wake up enlightened. A clarity carved through bone and memory. They never cared. They never planned to help you. They only clapped when you fell. You don't become dangerous by accident. You become dangerous when forgiveness becomes burial soil, when mercy feels like a chain, when survival tastes like blood instead of fear. They thought silence meant surrender. They mistook stillness for defeat. They believed you were kneeling when you were loading the weapon. Silence was strategy. Venom waiting for a pulse. A wolf listening beneath snow. A blade waiting under skin. A fire breathing slowly, waiting for oxygen. And when clarity came, it didn't whisper. It roared inside you like a war horn made of bone. You realized no one was coming. No cavalry, no savior, no hand to pull you up. Some people drown waiting for lifeguards. You learn to breathe underwater. A spark in a graveyard. That's what you became. Life inside death. A pulse in a world that wanted you cold. A lion exhaling before a roar. Quiet not because you lacked power. Quiet because you were choosing who deserved to hear your voice first. A broken machine rewiring itself in the dark. No instruction manual, no support. Just raw instinct and a refusal to stay dismantled. You learned the truth. The world does not hate weakness. It feeds off it. It drinks from it. It dances on it, and then pretends it offered help. So you swallowed your softness. You buried your innocence. You fed your rage, the way warriors feed fire before battle. A new rule carved itself into your bones. Never beg, never bow, never bleed for people who want you empty. Heroes rise from love. Legends rise from destiny. But monsters rise from betrayal. And betrayal is the finest teacher of all. Even Caesar didn't rise from love. He rose from betrayal. Knives in the back build sharper crowns than loyalty ever could. In that moment, you didn't find strength. You tasted it, raw, metallic, violent in its purity. You felt your lungs refusing to collapse. You felt your pulse refusing to slow. You felt your spirit refusing to die quiet. Pain stopped being prison. It became hunger. Hunger for power. Hunger for proof. Hunger for a world where your name burns louder than their laughter. You stopped asking, stopped seeking permission, stopped apologizing for breathing. You learned to turn silence into oxygen tanks. Your lungs became factories of vengeance, and every inhale was preparation for war. You rose not to be accepted, but to be remembered. Not to earn love, but to command fear. Not to belong, but to rule your own world. Even if built from ashes. When the world ignores you long enough, you stop wanting a seat at the table. You build a throne from the rubble instead. And the ones who laughed, they don't laugh anymore. They watch, they whisper, they choke on the truth you forged in the fire they lit. This was not the moment you got stronger. This was the moment you stopped being weak. This was rebirth by rage, salvation by solitude, evolution by necessity. You stopped begging. You started breathing fire. Every breath since has carried a warning. Every heartbeat since has been a war drum. Every step since has been prophecy. You didn't escape the darkness. You weaponized it. Now look at them, The ones who laughed first now breathe last. Funny, isn't it? How the world shifts when silence turns into thunder. How the same voices that once mocked you now tremble just hearing your name whispered in rooms they can't control. They watch your rise like an execution clock, ticking, waiting, praying you fall before the bell hits. And every passing second suffocates them more than failure ever suffocated you. You don't rise politely after being crucified by mockery. You rise like a blade pulled from molten rage, sharp enough to cut destinies, cold enough to freeze doubt. Every step you take crushes a name that doubted you, not out of pettiness, out of balance. Justice carved in bone, paid for in humiliation and silence. They choked you with doubt. Now they choke on consequences. Every victory squeezes the oxygen out of their fragile pride. They gasp at your success, like fish thrown on dry land, thrashing, desperate, harmless. Those who breathed easiest while you suffered now gasp hardest while you rise. Poetry, perfect and merciless. They call you ruthless because they can't call you weak anymore. Weakness was your grave they tried to bury you in. Ruthlessness is the shovel you used to climb back out. You earned this coldness. You forged it in silence. You paid for it with the kind of loneliness that turns bones into steel. You don't need applause. You need silence, trembling in fear. Let them clap for someone else. Let them cheer for their illusions. You don't chase noise anymore. You command stillness, and the stillness obeys. They once gossiped like venom-dripping snakes, thinking words were weapons. But their gossip doesn't cut you. It chokes them. Every rumor they spread now hangs around their own necks like a noose. Look at them, eyes wide, breathing shallow, pretending they don't care while their heartbeat stutters every time your name trends, every time your shadow crosses their fragile kingdoms. You became their storm. They became your warning. The universe didn't punish them. You did, by surviving, by leveling up, by turning every insult into ammunition. Rise like this, and they stop asking, who do you think you are? They start whispering, what have we created? Wolves circle your throne now, not to kill you, but to serve, to fear, to watch what real evolution looks like. A throne, forged in scars, lit by the fire of yoke every night you didn't quit. Power is not loud. Power is the sound of others gasping for air while you breathe calm, controlled, unshaken. You used to suffocate in their world. Now they suffocate in yours. Every time they speak your name, their throat tightens. Every time you move forward, their lungs collapse a little deeper. They wanted you on your knees. You made them kneel instead, not with violence, but with the quiet victory only scars understand. Can they breathe? Barely. Can they think? Not clearly. Can they watch? They have no choice. They stare at you like dying kings watching a new empire rise. They can't deny you. They can't escape you. They can't undo the prophecy they laughed at when you were smaller, quieter, bleeding silently in the dark. This is domination without touch, power without shouting, revenge without lifting a sword, because your existence became the battlefield, slow tightening of invisible hands around arrogant throats, not literal hands, consequences. Your success constricts their ego like a serpent around a fragile neck, life support machines humming for broken egos, their pride plugged into wires, desperate to survive the shock of your rise. Your glow became their oxygen deprivation. You became the pressure they cannot breathe under. You became the storm their umbrellas snap beneath. You became the air they cannot inhale without trembling. Once you drowned in doubt, now they drown in proof. Those who mocked wilt first. Those who doubted suffocate slowest. Those who betrayed gasp longest. This is not cruelty, it is balance. This is not revenge, it is gravity correcting itself. Haters can't breathe. Haters can't breathe. Haters can't think. Haters can't think. Haters can only watch. Haters can only watch. They thought they buried you. They didn't know you were soil. They didn't know you were seed. They didn't know the darkness was your greenhouse. Every drop of doubt watered your ambition. Every insult was sunlight feeding your rage. Every betrayal carved a new layer of armor along your spine. You didn't come back the same. You came back evolved, engineered by suffering, upgraded by silence, fueled by the kind of hunger quiet men carry for generations. You no longer chase respect. Respect chokes trying to follow you. You no longer seek permission. Permission suffocates in your shadow. This is power earned in solitude. Power built from humiliation. Power that breathes only on its own terms. And you know the truth now. You never needed their acceptance. You needed their doubt. You never needed their support. You needed their disbelief. They were not obstacles. They were oxygen tanks. They just didn't realize you were siphoning their air to rise. You didn't just rise. You drained their air doing it. Now comes the sweetest punishment. Silence. Silence used to be your cage. Now it's your kingdom. There's a certain elegance in destroying someone without touching them. Without words. Without rage. Just presence. Just calm. You speak less. They panic more. Every quiet second slices deeper than any insult ever could. Silence becomes a mirror, and they hate what they see in it. Their insecurities echo louder than your voice ever needed to. You move slowly, they suffocate quickly. One measured step from you, and they feel their lungs tremble. One breath from you, and they feel their chests collapse under the weight of your restraint. Nothing hurts them like seeing you unbothered, not angry, not desperate, not affected, just untouched. A storm inside marble, a fire that refuses to rise yet warms the room with threat. They study your calm like a prophecy. They analyze your silence like sacred scripture. They look for cracks in your armor that don't exist anymore. Because the old you died the moment you learned that control isn't force. It's stillness. It's choosing not to swing when you could end everything with a single blow. That's power. Chaos for them. Peace for you. Let them scramble. Let them drown in confusion. Let them choke on every fear that once strangled you. They wanted noise. They wanted drama. They wanted chaos. Now they drown in their own. You sit still. You breathe. And they break themselves on your indifference. Heroes talk. Villains observe. Kings just breathe. And when you breathe now, the world pays attention. Not because you ask it to, but because you earned that silence with blood and bone. There's a quiet smile you wear now. Not arrogance, not pride, but awareness. The kind that comes when you realize the battlefield belongs to the one who does not flinch. The world hears noise. Power hears heartbeat. Weak men chase applause. Strong men chase control. Legends chase destiny. And destiny arrives quietly, like shadows before dawn. You don't rush. Rushing is for the desperate, for the hungry, for the ones who haven't tasted true power yet. You have, and it tastes like still water before a storm. It feels like a blade resting in a velvet sheath, not because it's gentle, but because it knows it doesn't need to be drawn to conquer. Your silence is your crown now, and every breath you take is ceremony. Every pause is judgment. Every blink is a verdict. Hannibal's calm before a kill. Joker's grin before chaos breaks. Caesar's stare before triumph. Different names, same energy. Stillness as dominance. Silence as weapon. Composure as cruelty. Because the cruelest thing you can ever give your enemies is nothing. No reaction, no emotion, no explanation. Just silence that stares back at them like a loaded gun. And they crumble under it. It's poetic. It's surgical. It's divine. They suffocated you with noise. Now they suffocate on your quiet. They watch for your moves. You barely acknowledge theirs. They speak your name. You let the world answer for you. They gossip about your downfall. You keep rising until their words turn into their tombstones. Let them choke on silence. Let them choke on silence. Let them drown in your calm. Let them drown in your calm. Because nothing terrifies the loud more than the one who never needed to raise their voice to win. Now they second-guess themselves. Now they fear pauses in conversations. Now they flinch at your stillness, the same way traitors flinch at shadows behind thrones. You became the quiet they can't predict, the calm they can't decode, the silence they can't breathe around. And that's the ultimate revenge. You don't destroy them. You let their minds do it for you. You are not disturbed by their existence. You are elevated beyond it. You don't rush anymore. You don't plead. You don't explain. You sit with patience carved from storms. You walk with grace sculpted from scars. You breathe like a man who knows the universe rearranged itself to make space for him. Your silence is not emptiness. It is verdict, sentence, crown, requiem. They lost the game not when you won, but when you stopped needing to prove anything. That's the moment they suffocated. That's the moment fear replaced arrogance. That's the moment they saw truth. You were never competing with them. You were outgrowing them. Power doesn't shout. It breathes, and others gasp. You don't chase approval anymore. You control atmosphere. There comes a point where your rise stops being a fight and becomes a fact. A point where you don't wrestle for validation. You dictate it with every breath. They used to ignore you. Now they study you. Every move, every pause, every flaw they once mocked has become a prophecy they fear. They used to laugh. Now they suffocate trying to keep up. Their giggles have rotted into gasps. Their arrogance has shriveled into panic. They watch you like dying men watch oxygen tanks, knowing there's not enough air for all of them, and you decide who breathes next. Their hate became the ventilator for your empire. Every insult was oxygen pumped into your lungs. Every doubt was air pressure sharpening your ribs into armor. You turned insults into iron lungs. You turned mockery into muscle. You turned suffocation into supremacy. Now they kneel under skies you once choked beneath. That's the irony tragedy poets write about. The suffocated becoming the storm, the drowned becoming the tide, the buried becoming the throne. Their fear is your applause. You don't need their claps. Fear is louder. Fear echoes in silence. Fear makes crowds bow without command. They breathe only because you allow it. They exist in the space your mercy grants. Kings need armies. Gods need temples. But what do those who command breath itself require? Nothing. Only pulse. Only presence. Only air. And you are air now. And when you exhale, the world pauses, because your breath is prophecy, your silence is scripture, your stillness is execution. You don't rise anymore. You hover above doubt, above ego, above those who tried to crush your lungs into desperation. You no longer fight for space. You are the space. You don't demand respect. It suffocates from your presence, forcing itself into their lungs until they choke on admiration, disguised as fear. Throne built from bones of doubt. Each rib a reminder, each vertebra a scar, each skull a lesson carved in silence and blood. You don't sit on that throne. You become it. Your foundation, structure, crown, kingdom, torch held to a silent battlefield. You are the flame. You are the proof. You are the reason darkness never truly wins. Lion overlooking a valley where hyenas choke. They laugh only when lions are absent. You returned. Silence became law. Power is no longer fight in your veins. It is breath in your lungs. It moves with you, flows from you, crushes doubt beneath you. Now you don't walk. The world shifts out of your way. You don't speak. The world listens anyway. You don't demand. Existence rearranges itself to obey. Because when you stop chasing air, you become the wind. And when you control wind, you command life. And now, your presence is climate. Your story is atmosphere. Your breath is weather. Failure suffocated you once. Now you control whether failure breathes at all. And every hater who ever smirked, whispered, mocked, doubted, they live in the world you exhaled into existence. You rise, they gasp, you move, they suffocate. That is not cruelty, that is return on investment. Pain pays compound interest. You didn't build a life. You built a legend. You didn't prove them wrong. You made their opinions irrelevant. Everyone wants to rule a kingdom until they realize the throne sits on graves. You accepted that truth. You built on it. You ascended with it, carved into bone. They prayed you'd fail. They worship you now in secret shame. Not with words, with breathless panic every time they see your name. Some rise to applause. You rose to silence. Silence you forged. Silence you weaponized. Silence now kneeling before you like a loyal army. You don't demand loyalty. Loyalty forms itself around you, like gravity around planets. You don't ask for respect. Respect oxygenates your world without asking permission. And the ones who once wished you drown in, they now swim in your tide, hoping not to be pulled under where truth sleeps with fear. Legends don't talk about rising. Legends breathe, and the world rises with them, or suffocates without them. You weren't given air. You stole it. You molded it. You became it. Now listen, not to their whispers, not to their envy, not to their trembling breaths. Listen to your own silence. That's the sound of power, too big to explain, too sovereign to justify, too immortal to challenge. Haters can't breathe because you became the air.